Hi guys, 25 minutes past 3 p.m. CET, meaning that we have like 5 minutes towards US cash open, and it looks like might be very interesting from the indices perspective, as some fake news hit the market. What was all about? So let me start first. What kind of the market? What kind of the news hit the market? It was like US and Chinese negotiators planning for delay of December tariffs, right? So that was the news which hit the market and helped here to move prices of the US indices, and not only US indices, higher, right? Huge spike higher. But the thing is, we have to clarify one thing here, that was not the original news. The original news was from anonymous Chinese source saying that they have the demand for President Trump to delay these tariffs, right, in case of the continuation of the negotiations, right? Then what the Wall Street Journal wrote, it was like the tariff delay to take place as US, China continue to haggle over how to get Beijing to commit to massive pushes of US farm products. President Trump is insisting on for a near-term deal, right? But that was not that what was all about. It's the overall picture here is that plan is now in place, right? They are planning for Trump to decide on the delay. So, well, we have to take all of this into the consideration when talking about this US-China. So that's the negative. And I think that this spike might be easily faded if. So that's the pre-market spike, right? But the important thing is this yesterday cranky rise at the beginning, right? So move and close from the intraday perspective above this zone, right, might eventually bring further rally. But look where we spiked, right, toward the zone we discussed. So that's very interesting, and it's worth to watch, of course, from that perspective. We had earlier today, we had the update in regards to the DAX, so let's briefly check what DAX is doing, right? And what DAX is doing. DAX is testing 13,000. We were discussing this 13,000. DAX is a little bit above 13,000 right here, right now, all right? And that's the zone. A little bit lower, like this here, all right? So I'm watching both. I'm watching DAX and watching Nasdaq from the short perspective. Of course, in both cases, there is some kind of the like V formation preparation, right? So I'm gonna be careful, right? We know where I have a second level. I have a second level of DAX closer to 13,130, right? More or less, based on what we discussed. So, well, I do understand the V formation possible here, as well as on US Tech Nasdaq, right? Very similar here. We even hit those intraday highs, but that's where the problem will arise. All right. Also watching S&P, also from selling perspective. I'm bearish, quite bearish, right? And it's very similar situation to what we have on Nasdaq. This cranky upside candle right at the open yesterday, right? And look where those spike hit, right? So very interesting, afternoon. We have 1 minute or less than 1 minute 30 seconds to US Open. Next news, it's possible trade deal between US, Canada and Mexico, right? And looks like it's gonna be signed today. So from that perspective, that might be a little bit positive, but I would rather wait for a positive as from the Mexican peso perspective, or maybe the Canadian dollar perspective, which we saw yesterday, getting a little bit of the strength after the very weak Friday Canadian job market, right? But there is, that's the all three countries have agreed to sign USMCA today, right, via Bloomberg. So that's the positive. But another negative information hit the market, right? Democrats announced 2 articles of impeachment against the Trump. So it's also worth to watch the development from that side in regards to the impeachment. So guys, let's try to summarize this US cash open market right here, right now. Well, first important question we have to ask, well, is it going to be the deal between the US and China? Because delaying is meaning no deal in 2019, let's push forward. But that's something we discussed already a few times. Right? Trump doesn't need the deal right now, right here. But the impeachment case here could wait, right? So the China may hit back. Okay, we want to wait because of the impeachment, right? Then, guys, we have Fed tomorrow, right? And there is no reason for the Fed to be dovish. The only thing they can say, yeah, the all around weaker development, but US is great. Okay, and we got a huge non-farm payrolls number. So US cash market is open. Let's have a look what we have. Here. So what I'm waiting for during the day, that's fake news spike high, right? That's US S&P 500 cash open, right? So depends on what kind of the first 5-minute trading range we are going to get, right? Let's say we are going to hold this zone on S&P, right? So that's going to be our first 5-minute trading range, right? So in that case, it might be that we might hunt those stops, all right? So for now, it might easily change within the next 30 minutes, right? But for now, I'm looking for maybe another stop count, more stops above that fake news high and rejection, and move back below that zone. That would be my short. That would be my short entry. All right. With DAX, it's a little bit tougher because we have ECB on Thursday, and ECB might want to save the world, being dovish, right? And especially that the euro is getting closer to the close of the day. Probably I'm going to focus. Probably I will skip DAX and I will focus on S&P and Nasdaq. That's gonna be enough from my perspective, right? Let's have a look because there was a reaction on the Chinese yuan, as you can see, based on that news. So we hit some levels. Some stops were taken out, but trying to work with the lower shadow for now. I think dollar Chinese yuan is worth to watch because it might tell us a little bit of the story, right? The bulls are safe as long as this latest weakness. Bulls are safe as this latest weakness holds, and well, I think that we might even see this low, right? So we hit one level of the stops, but the second looks like we are still holding, so working with this lower shadow, and well, bulls are safe for now, right? So that's based on the China story. Dollar yen spike higher. We are still far from the post non-farm payrolls high. That's what I'm, well, eventually waiting for. Okay, quickly rejected. Probably more pain to come for bulls. All right, and overall risk sentiment on the gold, right? If that was trade deal, so why the heck we have lower shadows, and we probably sooner or later are going to retest non-farm payrolls high, right? On the other hand, talking about the Mexico, Canada and US deal, USD CAD. Yesterday we saw stronger Canadian dollar, right? But the yellow box, if you remember our meeting on Friday, we are covering this live. I do expect 1, 2, 1 and rally from here, right? So waiting patiently for that move to happen. Okay, oil eventually may support a bit. There was an attempt to go higher. So anyway, I still waiting for 32.10, 32 to see what's going to happen there. All right. So guys, that was quick US cash open market update. Be careful. I'm leaning towards the risk of later on, as described. Unfortunately, market might be dynamic and some changes might be done in case of necessary update, either mid US session or towards the end of the session. Don't be trapped, guys, and see you around. Goodbye.